Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ruby. This is Ruby Red, and today I'm going to show you my reading journal and wrap up my reading from the month of November. I have this project that I've been working on for the last couple months of this year where I've got this little journal that I made, and I have been doing a drawing or a painting or something in this book for every book that I read, directly inspired or like tangentially inspired by that book. And I've been sharing that with you and talking about the book. And I really like doing that. And so I'm gonna do it again. This is my wrap up for the month of November, which was also Nonfiction November. And so I aimed to read a lot more nonfiction than I had been. Success? I don't know. I only actually finished 3 nonfiction books in November, but I almost finished a 4th and I started 2 others. So there was a lot of nonfiction, just it didn't all get done. And so it didn't all make it into the journal for November, but that's fine. We'll talk about that when we get there. Now, before we get into the fun part, the overhead and voiceover stuff, I just want to say that I think that this is the last one of these videos you're going to be seeing from me. I've really enjoyed making them, and I've really enjoyed this practice. Like, I have been feeling so creatively fulfilled at times, but at other times I've been feeling really overwhelmed. Putting these videos together is a lot of work, and it also just requires me to be working on my creative pursuit, on my drawings and such, in a filmable way, which is not always my preference. And it also has just sort of become something that I am overcomplicating. I'll talk a little bit about this in the voiceover, but yeah, I just have been going a little bit too hard on this, and next year I know I'm going to be a lot busier, and I know that I won't have time to spend doing this. It is a lot of time, and I've kind of already been feeling burnt out in the month of December, and it's only half over, so not foreseeing really having it in me to wrap up my December reads, unfortunately. So yeah, I think this is gonna be the last one, and I am sad to be saying that. And I do like a more structured wrap up, so I'm thinking about ways that I can continue to talk to you about what I've been reading in like an interesting way. I will keep thinking about it, but in the meantime, why don't you please enjoy some of the artwork that I did this month related to the books that I read this month, or last month. Okay, the first book I finished in November was Poisoner in Chief by Stephen Kinzer. This was my book club pick for the month. It's about Sidney Gottlieb, a man who ran secret mind control experiments at the CIA in the 50s and 60s. And it was way more out there than you're expecting it to be, honestly. There was so much insidiousness in this book about MKUltra and a load of other secret LSD experiments on unaware test subjects. The amount of power that these men were handed by their various administrations to just do whatever they wanted in the name of national security was sickening. I don't even know how to get into the details, but if anything about this sparks your interest, or you're really into conspiracy theories that are true, then I guess you should read this. And for my journal, I tried to do a little LSD-inspired art. As someone who has never done LSD, I literally searched LSD aesthetic on Pinterest, and this is what I ended up drawing based on that. It was really fun. Anyway, I give this book 5 stars. It was fantastic. The second book I finished in November was Babel by R.F. Kuang. Oh my god. Okay, how to talk about Babel. This is the story of Robin Swift, a boy who is whisked out of his tuberculosis-ridden village in Canton when he is 12 or so, and brought to England by his mysterious patron, Professor Lovell. And he's tutored in various languages there, and then eventually he sets off to attend Oxford School of Translation, also known as Babel. The magic system of this book is related to silver in translation. They have the ability to imbue silver bars with the essence of whatever is lost in translation, and they use that power to further their imperialist agenda. And the juiciness of this book comes as Robin starts to realize that the role that he and his classmates are playing in the colonization of their home country. So the story digs deep into colonialism, capitalism, imperialism, all one and the same, in a more direct way than the Poppy War trilogy by this author, but with the same brutality of narrative. This book hurts. No punches are pulled. My only complaint really is that there were a few moments where a character would be lecturing another, kind of almost just giving a speech, and that felt very repetitive, and also like the point of the book was being over-explained, but I love and appreciate absolutely everything this book did. I thought that it was truly phenomenal. And for my journal, I decided to draw the Tower of Babel as it's depicted on the cover of the book. And yeah, it leans a little bit towards the top there, but it felt really fun to do. I felt good about it. I love it. And I gave this book 5 stars. The next book I read was The Night Ship by Jess Kidd, and this book is 2 stories told in parallel, but 350 years apart. So one is 9-year-old Macon, who's on a ship with her nanny sailing from Denmark to Australia, and the other is 9-year-old Gil, who's just been sent to live with his grandfather on a small fishing island in Australia. And the same island, actually, where Macon's ship was wrecked, and all sorts of tragedies befell the crew and passengers. So on the boat, Macon's trying to find this mysterious eel monster that's making her beloved nanny sick, and through her we get to see a lot of the general nefarious goings-on this boat. And then Gil is not really adjusting very well to his new home, and he is haunted by the story of this 350-year-old shipwreck. I just love to read a story like this through the eyes of children if it's done well, and this one I do think was. You just get such a different perspective, a more innocent perspective, but also they see more than you think. So it's just a whole different world for 9-year-olds. And I love this story. So for my sketchbook, I wanted to draw an eel because I love them, and there was a monster eel element to this story that I did like reading about. So there's my little eel. I tried really hard to color match the book cover with this painting, and it was a lot harder than I anticipated. I honestly don't really love how this turned out, but it is what it is. I think I wasn't really having fun, and it shows, but I did really like this book. I gave it 4 stars. Okay, the next book I read was A Minor Chorus by Billy Ray Belcourt. This book felt supremely autobiographical, but what do I know? It follows a young gay Indigenous man writing his thesis, or at least trying to, and he has conversations about academia with another queer Indigenous student. He makes a trip to his hometown where he is haunted by ghosts of his past and maybe also the future. This read just so much like a novel written by a poet, and you know what? That is exactly what it was. It was moving, it was a little devastating, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm definitely going to try to read some other works by Billy Ray Belcourt because this was excellent. However, I was really stumped about what I wanted to do in my journal here, so I ended up focusing only on just writing out the title in a fun little font that I found, and then doing a background with some of these earth tone colors. I tried to pull from the cover of the book as well. And you know what? Sometimes that's just all I have. But there it is. I thought this looks pretty good. I gave the book 5 stars. The next book I finished was The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This is another novel written by a poet, and this one I know is autobiographical. Instead of the usual coming-of-age story, this follows Esther Greenwood as she matures and also sinks into a deep depression, eventually leading her to attempt suicide and be placed in an institution. The overall subject matter is undoubtedly heavy, but the story is sprinkled with so many classic adolescent moments with friends and boys and sex and mothers and college, all blended in with this deep, deep depression. And I can't say anything profound about this really at this time, but I did enjoy it. I think it's a fantastic work. I wish I had read it sooner. For this spread, I was not feeling like doing too much, so I drew a bell jar over a fig branch, which I pulled from some of Esther's hangry musings about the paralyzing struggle to decide how to spend your life before it's over. And then I added in some classic bell jar quotes, and that was it. And I'm honestly so happy with this. This is what I wish I was doing more of in here. So good for me. I gave this 4 stars. Then I read The Sanatorium by Sarah Pierce. This is a thriller. I read it with my friends Bailey and Martine, and it's about a woman who's on leave from being a detective, and she's going to this new hotel in the Swiss Alps for her brother's engagement party, only to get snowed in and discover that there's something dangerous afoot. The nasty backstory of how this old sanatorium was purchased and renovated into a sparkling new resort is slowly revealed. Some parts of this were definitely a little scary, but also some of the characters were behaving badly. You know how it is in these isolated, snowy thrillers. For my journal, I did another architectural drawing sort of thing of the building that's on the cover of the book, but this time I did it in just some cool winter blues. Without any line work, I thought it would be interesting to try it this way. It was simple, but I love drawing it, and simple is definitely the general direction that I wish I was overall leaning in this. I gave this book 3 stars. The next book that I finished was The Bullet Journal Method by Ryder Carroll. I read this on a whim, and I'm actually so glad I did. It was a really quick read, especially if you're already loosely familiar with the method. I gotta say, I highly recommend this book. If you think that you're bullet journaling, but you don't feel like it's totally changed your life, you're probably doing it wrong. I'm serious. Going back to basics in this book and thinking about not just like what I'm doing, the tasks I'm writing down, but the why it's so critical to being satisfied with your life. And the bullet journal method is really just a mindfulness practice disguised as a productivity tool. It's just a way to make sure that you're spending your time on the right things. And I'm so excited about my new bullet journal for next year, and even the ways that I've sort of changed my setup and my method for this month of December. It feels amazing. I don't want to draw anything for this because I am making a whole bullet journal video, but that's coming later. So stay tuned. This has been just a quick little sneak peek at some of that. Yeah, I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. The next book that I read was You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi. I gotta say, I've seen so many people hate this book recently, so that really hurts, but nothing will hurt as much as this book hurt me. It's the story of Faye, an artist in New York City. She's still grappling with grief for her husband who died 5 years before. And throughout the book, she starts to date a little and then a lot, and things get really messy, like so horribly messy, but that's life. That's life. I shed a tear on almost every page of this book. I was reading it on vacation, and I would be like lounging by the pool, just shedding one single tear after another. The writing was really beautiful. The grief was so deep, but there was so much beauty too, and so much life. Like, life is a gift and a struggle, and boy, does Faye dig into that struggle. There was also some good food stuff in this. But yeah, I love the way that we get to see Faye and her bestie Joy, 2 Black millennial girlies in New York. They're speaking in memes and AVE, but they're also being adult, intelligent women. Like, you can be both. You can have both. And not a lot of books that I have read have given me this duality. And I loved it. I mean, that's on me, right? But yeah, it was a little steamy and a lot messy, so don't say I didn't warn you. Unfortunately, one of my favorite reads gets one of my least favorite journal spreads. I was burnt out by this point in doing these little art pieces, so I painted the UK version of the cover, and I just wrote in a single quote. I hate the spread so much, honestly, but I really, really love this book. Okay, it was 5 stars. The final book that I read in November was Fresh Banana Leaves by Jessica Hernandez. This is a hard book to summarize. It explores so many facets of Indigenous life and history in North and Central America. It explores academia's views on and exploitation of Indigenous wisdom and scientists. It's about destruction and community and how conservation is really the very least that we could do. I think there was some interesting stuff in this book, but there were some huge editing problems. The structure was messy, repetitive, confusing. There were some grammatical issues as well that made it even more confusing. It was so disappointing that the publishers did this author so dirty on a book that is basically about all the ways that Indigenous people have been done so dirty, but here we are. I cannot recommend this book. I'm so sorry. My journal spread was just some banana leaves. I love the cover of the book at least, so I tried to match that here. I actually don't think I rated this book on Goodreads. I just felt like something really horrible happened in the publishing process of this, but if I were to rate it, I would give it 2 stars. There you have it, folks. Those were all the books that I read in November. I hope you enjoyed hearing me talk about them, and yeah, I tried to be really honest about what I was feeling about them and also about how I was feeling about my own artwork. I think there were definitely some of these were more successful than others, and that's okay. I never wanted this to be something that I was putting so much pressure on myself to do something amazing every single book anyway, but yeah, there you have it. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed this series. I'm really sad again to be saying goodbye to it, but this is just how it has to be for now. Maybe it will make a triumphant return someday when my life is a little bit less chaotic, or maybe I will keep up the practice in a much more casual way. But either way, I'm glad you were here. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate every like, comment, and subscribe. So thank you. And I will see you back here for another video very soon. I hope. Goodbye.